Before you talk about sale of, I don't know what you wanted to say, but let's talk about pensioners. When I get to see a former director in the public service, or people like yourself, what comes to mind, all through last year we had series of pension issues, pension fraud, someone bolting over with some pensioners fund, and whether the person has brought it back or not. Let's look at 2014. Plight of pensioners. Have we handled that perfectly well?
No. Capital no. And there are many factors responsible for this. May I start with the response that normally comes from the presidency when events affect a particular ministry. I want the executive to check that. In every ministry, in every department, we have a chief executive. As far as establishment and pension matters is concerned, it is the responsibility of the head of service of the Federation. He also has a chief press secretary who could respond to any particular issue. There was a time somebody was arrested and being charged. You are aware of the case. And the National Assembly, or the House of Rep, or the National Assembly, yes, both the Senate and House of Representatives agreed that a particular person should be queried and his appointment reconsidered on his role on the issue of pensions. Response just came from the presidency through the media aid to the president that the president has no power to deal with a director. It's under the head of service. It's not a proper response. All issues affecting ministries, departments, and other agencies, we should leave the chief executive, if we believe they are competent, to address issues. Eventually, head of service of the Federation then later queried the person affected. The issue is still at abeyance. That's the way I would put it. Now, the plight of pensioners all over the Federation continues. I'm particular about the issue of federal pensioners. A number of people who joined various state governments before 1976, when they retired, they have federal share of pension and gratuities to collect. Not up to 20% of these people have collected their pensions and gratuities. Whereas the states they have come from have settled them, and they are taking their pensions regularly. So with the pension reform which took effect in 2004, I want to say that not up to 12 states of the Federation bought into the idea of the new pension scheme. And up to today, the states that have not bought into it, and they are not compelled to, they should not be compelled. The states that have not joined, all the retired officers, whether high or low or middle level, have not been paid their pensions and gratuity.
Why is it that we're still getting into this kind of mess? So we thought 2004, with the coming of PFAs, the pension fund administrators, all this by now, this is 2014, and we're still talking about plight of pensioners.
The issues are not addressed because of what I've said. About 2/3 of the states in the Federation have not bought into it, because at the commencement of it, there was a certain amount of money that each of the state governments were to pay into the covers of the National Pension Commission. Some of them were to pay 200 million, 750 million, and some of the state chief executives said they could not afford it. So the money to settle all the pensioners on their gratuities and their pensions have continued up to today, federal not attending to that. The latest information now is that the issue of pension, which is the responsibility of head of service of the Federation, has now been taken to the Ministry of Finance. It's not supposed to be so. Finance is to pay, but the schedule of payment is to be raised by the head of service of the Federation. I'm not happy because there were a lot of expectations when the new head of service of the Federation, Alhaji Bukar Goni Aji, assumed duty, and he gave assurance that pensioners will not continue to suffer. You will not see contractors complaining that they have not been paid, but pensioners across the 36 states of the Federation who have federal share of gratuities and pensions are complaining seriously, and some of them are dying.
Things should be getting better, and but we're getting to hear this, the swapping roles. Being a fellow of the Institute of Personnel Management, are we saying that we don't have experts in the federal civil service who can handle this in the office of the head of service of the Federation?
We have, but he has his problem. You see, the chief executive of a particular place takes his proposal to the overall executive, who is the president of the Federation, present his proposal on how he is to solve some of the problems that affects his portfolio. He gets approval for whatever he wants to do. Implementation becomes difficult when funds is not provided. A number of MDAs and the issue of non-performance of budget that we have been talking about revolves in the Ministry of Finance, mostly in the fact that funds are not released either to the MDA on time, or what is released is not sufficient for them to implement the program. How will the budget perform? So I would say that a lot of people exercise undue powers on what does not affect them, thereby creating problem for citizens.
But what is your perception of the civil service? I mean, I know that you were a director there, but you know, now that you've left, what do you think is preventing the civil service from being as efficient as it should?
Many things. Politics is among them, especially at the state level. Some of the public servants are card-carrying members of some political parties, and they go under the smoke screen of blackmailing some of their colleagues.
Should that be the case? Are civil servants
should not be the case, but the politicians believe that these people are loyal, but they do not believe that they want to get into their 18 so as to get appointments and patronage. In the end, they mislead those who are in government for selfish interest. So it's part of the cog in that wheel of the performance of the civil service. But at the federal level, what I think is responsible is the fact that those who should exercise powers, they are not exercising that power responsibly. If my schedule is taken away from me as a head of a government department, I have the right to write a memo to the president complaining that I have responsibility on this matter, refer to the relevant place in the law so as to ensure that that schedule returns to me for me to fulfill my responsibility. Inability to fulfill my responsibility will score my principal low, and that is what is contributing to the performance of federal government in all areas of governance now. Look at the issue of proposed sale of the so-called proposed sale of the refineries. The Minister for Petroleum ought to know that policy formulation and implementation has to pass through normal process before making an official declaration that our refineries will be sold. There are many processes. You could raise a proposal to the president. The president will say, go and bring an executive council memo on this. If she brings it and is argued, discussed thoroughly, it is when it's accepted that the matter may go to the National Economic Council. And if it's adopted, it will then go to the National Assembly.
Okay.
Budget for this year. Do we have proposed income for the proposed sale of our refineries have been part of revenue we are expecting? It's not there. What prompted the Minister of Petroleum to have made a statement that they are going to be sold?
So you are actually backing, you see ground for the strike that was going to be embarked upon by Pengasson and Lupeng?
It was necessary when they were giving the threat. And you can see the government backing down, and I'm happy that the government did not say that it has not started processing such an issue. It says emphatically through the Minister of Labour, Emeka Wogu, that they are not going to sell our refineries. That's a cheering news for Nigerians.
All right, Ibrahim Abdullhahi is a fellow, Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you, Chairman.
All right, then we'll return and look at some comments coming from you. Join us again.